So everybody remembers the Peanuts cartoon strip, right? Peanuts characters. We probably all relate to one of the different Peanuts characters in some way. There's a Charlie Brown in here, there's a Linus, there's a Lucy. We're hoping there's maybe not a Pigpen in here, but maybe there is, I don't know. But the Peanuts cartoon, one of my favorite Peanuts cartoons that's ever been out there is Lucy and Linus. And you know, Linus is like this really nice, kind of gentle guy, and Lucy's that in your face, I'm just going to speak truth, right? And so Linus is telling Lucy about his desire to be a doctor. He's going to be a doctor one day. And Lucy, in typical style, is responding to him like, you can't be a doctor, Linus. Why can't I be a doctor? And she says, because you don't love people. To which Linus is able to get the final response in this exchange, and he says, I love mankind. It's people I can't stand. Now, how many of us really kind of relate with that, right? Like, oh, no, I love mankind. I love it. If mankind didn't have people involved, it would be perfect. It would be wonderful. Because people can sometimes be a struggle, can't they? People can be difficult. It is not a shock to say here this morning that the people we love can be difficult. I'm not asking for a show of hands on that one or an amen or anything like that. But even the people we love can be difficult. Relationships can be difficult. We started talking last week about this idea of, is it possible to cherish without loving? And if loving is difficult, can we cherish? Because you see, the Bible commands us to love, right? Love one another. You don't find a command in the Bible that says, and the follow-up to that is, I command thee to cherish. So in a weird way, it's possible to love without cherishing. But in the relationships that are important to us, in a marriage relationship, in a family relationship, in a dating relationship, in a relationship that's serious, how can we make sure that these two are together? That in loving somebody, I'm cherishing them also. This is a great phrase, a great way to think of it that I read this week. It says this, if love is the muscle, then to cherish is the heart. If love is the muscle, then to cherish is the heart. If I'm going to love someone who's that close to me, then the heart behind it needs to be cherishing. We're going to look at that a little bit this morning. If we haven't met, my name is Scott Haus. I'm the campus pastor here at Grace East. I want to welcome you if you're visiting us this morning. It was great of Scott to give us a little forecast, like we didn't know what it was already outside. But it may have changed in the 10 minutes we had been in here, so that was really helpful to get that. If you're a note taker, you can follow along today in the outline that was handed to you on your way in, or you can, if you don't already have it downloaded, download the Grace SD app through whatever device you have, stuff like that. And you can actually take notes on there also. But we would love for you to follow along in the Bible. If you need a Bible, you can raise your hand, and we have some that we'll pass out. You can open up on your device if you have a Bible on your device. We're going to be in 1 Corinthians 13 this morning. 1 Corinthians 13, starting in verse 4. This is, if you're familiar with 1 Corinthians 13, this is the love chapter, right? So we are talking about love today. And last week, and like I referenced already, we began this series, Cherished. And on the back of the card, some of you may have even received it, which may even be the reason that you're here today. On the back of the little card that we have, it has this question, and the question is, do you cherish what you love? Now, the first time I read that, I'm like, well, it seems kind of obvious. But then when we stop and we think about it, well, I don't know, do I? How do I know? If your answer to that question is, I'm not sure I do, hey, good thing you're here. If your answer is yes, we're going to kind of look this morning and go, okay, well, how well are we loving the people that we cherish? Are we really cherishing them by how we love? Because here's what cherish in essence means. It means to hold dear, to have a deep affection for, to feel a deep love for, to protect and to care for. And again, those all seem obvious, but what we're going to see today as Paul takes us through this series of love descriptions is that it may not be as easy as we think, or we may not be doing as well as we think. And for some, today might be a little bit of a refresher. For some, today is going to be really encouraging, going, yes, I've nailed 4 out of 5. All the dentists agree with me. I'm doing good. Or we may go, I need to work on a few areas. Because here's the danger if we're not loving and we're not cherishing well. A love that doesn't cherish is a love that declines into contempt. It could be a quick fade. It could be a slow fade. But a love that doesn't cherish is a love that declines into contempt. It's a love that has lost its purpose. And here's how we kind of visualize that. Love, when it starts, it's new, right? It's exciting. In fact, there was a song about that. Love, exciting and new. Who's with me on it? I heard an oh my, I know. It's a disease, believe me. It's a disease that I have. But love, it's new. A new love, the person, there's no fault in them, right? It's like they're perfect. I am in a new love phase right now. In fact, I got engaged a month ago to the most amazing, incredible woman who's actually watching right now. And we'll be here next weekend. But I'm in that new love phase. I look at Jamie and I think there is no fault in this woman. She is literally perfect. And that's what new love is, right? And you have fun together and all this kind of stuff. And that's where we want love to stay, right? But over time, familiarity, and sometimes if you're not careful, you can go into the next phase. Well, now you begin to notice flaws. Now you begin to get a little disappointed. Now you begin to get a little disillusioned, like, well, wait, where did that come from? When did you start doing that kind of thing? Because I don't know if I like that part about you. Something has changed. It's not me, it's them. But this is where we begin to notice flaws now. And this is where it becomes key. It becomes key to be intentional about cherishing and not focusing on the flaws of the person. Because at Grace, we are a group of what kind of people? Imperfect people. We all have flaws. And our flaws will come out over time, especially in a relationship. So if we're not careful, that new love begins to diminish as we begin to notice the flaws of the person that we love. And then it takes another step. Now we begin to personalize those flaws. We begin to take them and kind of take ownership of it. And we begin to allow it to sort of define the relationship a little bit. Now it's like, okay, this really bugs me. This really bothers me. Okay, moment of transparency again. When I was younger, of course, and much less wise and mature than I am now, when I was younger, I would actually get bugged by really stupid things, to be quite honest with you. I would get bugged by how the dishwasher got loaded. Because when you open a dishwasher, I heard somebody moan. Don't be moaning, because there is a purpose in the dishwasher, okay? Those racks are designed to put things in a certain way. And when you just put stuff in, I would open it up, I'm like, this is only like half full, but it looks full because stuff's just everywhere. I would literally sort of get bugged about it. Now, I know that is way intense. I have backed off that. As long as you load it right, I've backed off of it. It's totally fine. But that kind of stuff, and it actually began to bother me. And I would unload and reload the dishwashing machine. Well, it was to get everything in it. It was the only reason I would do it. But that's where you begin to kind of personalize these things, because it made me start to feel towards another person. There was even anger sometimes, like, can you not get this right? We begin to personalize the flaws. We take them on as our own. And the final step of cherishing, becoming contempt, is now it becomes full-blown contempt. We're looking down on this other person. We're losing interest. Like, I don't even know if I want to be around you anymore. I'm going to get distance from you. I'm going to remove myself. I'm going to shut myself off from you now because of these traits that are in you. Or maybe it's something inside of us that has distanced us and caused contempt because, well, you're not acting like I think you should be acting, or I expect you to be acting. And so if we're not careful about how we love, if we're not careful to guard this sense of cherishing, here's how love can end up in contempt. And if in a relationship we end up in contempt, you are in dangerous waters. You can recover, but you're in dangerous waters. So the question today is, how can we love in a way that cultivates cherishing? How can we love in a way that continually builds us towards this concept of I want to protect, I want to cultivate the love that we have, the relationship there. I want to build it. I don't want to end up down here. Well, this is what Paul is going to begin to show us in the book of 1 Corinthians. So 1 Corinthians 13, verse 4, we're going to begin to look at the selflessness of true love. The selflessness of true love. Because love and cherish, here's a couple ways to look at it. Love says, I will be faithful to you. Cherish says, I will give you my time and my attention. Love says, I'll be faithful. Cherish says, no, I am here with you. I am present with you. You have my focus. Love says, I will stay with you. Cherish says, I want to be with you. There's a difference there, isn't it? I will stay with you because I love you. Cherishing is, there's nowhere else I'd rather be than with you. Love says, I will give to you, and cherish says, I will live sacrificially for you. Just simply providing is not cherishing. Cherishing is, I will live sacrificially for you. And love is at its best, we're going to see, when it's lived in three ways, when it's practiced in three ways. And here's what we're going to begin to look at. The first is a selfless life for others. 1 Corinthians 13, starting in verse 4. Paul says, love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. So we're going to stop there for a moment. A couple more verses we're going to look at, but we're going to sort of set the foundation for us here, because as we look at these qualities of love, we have to begin by understanding what love is. And so the word that Paul is using for love here is the word agape. Maybe you're familiar with it. It's this love that the Bible is full of. It's Christ's love for us. It's an unconditional, undeserved kind of love. It's a love that, hey, I didn't do anything to earn it. We sang about it this morning. It's a love that I can't even really lose, for that matter. Nothing I can do could make me lose this kind of love. And so when Paul begins to set up the kind of love that leads to cherishing, this is the kind of love that he's talking about. It's a self-sacrificing. It seeks the highest good of the other rather than myself. It's a love out of the will. It's not a love based on emotion. It's not a love based on, Janet Jackson asked the best question ever. What have you done for me lately? See, I can use those kind of references here in the East because we have more maturity and all that kind of stuff. Or we just reach farther back than North Park. I'm not sure. But it's a love out of the will. It's a love of choice. It's a love that is not about me. It's a love that it's about the other. And you'll notice as we read through these qualities that we're about to read through, there's positive, there's what love is, and there's what love isn't. You're going to notice that there is no stress on the personal feeling of love. It's the action of love. It's the activity of love. So Paul is going to give us 7 love is statements, and then 8 statements about what love isn't. And we're going to kind of walk through these really quickly this morning, looking at these different things. So the first 2 we want to look at, love is patient and love is kind. Now already some of us may be like, oh man, I'm out. We just started. I'm already struggling. Love is patient and love is kind. Now, the patient one, I'm going to admit, is always a work for me, because there are some areas of my life I'm very patient in, and then there's other areas of my life I can get really impatient really quick. I'm a very time-oriented person. I just always have been. That whole attitude of if you're on time, you're late. So if you're, my son and I were going to have lunch together at some point this week, and I said, hey, I'll be there at such and such a time to pick you up. Literally in my brain as I'm driving over there, I'm going to be like, well, I'm going to be like 10 minutes early, so do I park down the street so he doesn't know I'm here? Or, because then, it's like, well, if I'm early, that's kind of weird too. Like, I'm so excited to take him to lunch. But that's kind of who I am. I'm always there early. I get the question all the time, like, wait, I thought you said such. Well, I did, but you're not ready? I kind of have to watch this in myself, because if I'm going somewhere with people, I can kind of at times be the person who's like, I'll literally do that with my fingers. Are you impatient? No. Are you not ready? Patience. It's an area to work on. But this concept of patience, here's one more, because I don't understand this. Those of you who do this, you intentionally set your clock ahead, thinking somehow that helps you? Like, I don't get that. Like, no, your clock's wrong. It's like 10 minutes ahead. No, I did that on purpose, so I'm on time. To each their own, I guess. But this concept of patience is this. It's a long suffering. In essence, here's what patience is. It's the person who has the ability to retaliate, but doesn't. Who has the power, who has the authority, who could easily get back at, but chooses to not to. But chooses rather to go, you know what? I can cool my jets for a little bit. I don't need to respond. I don't need to react. It endures injury, provocation. It doesn't let itself go into resentment. So love is patient, but love is also kind. Now, this kind is not just, oh, hey, you dropped something. Let me pick it up for you, honey. Oh, yeah, I'm so kind. I'm a gentleman. It's not so much kind as it is useful. It's the concept of use. I'm seeking out the needs of the person that I love, and I want to fulfill those needs because there's this kindness inside of me that wants the best for them. There's a story of a man who's driving to work one morning, and he gets rear-ended. And he gets out of his car, and the lady behind him gets out of her car, and she's just bawling already. And they're looking, and there's some damage to the car. And she's just crying, and she says, it's a brand new car. It's literally like days off the lot. My husband is going to kill me. And the guy's trying to be really considerate and thoughtful. He goes, I'm sorry, but we do have to exchange information. We're going to have to report this to insurance and all this kind of stuff. And she goes back to her car and starts fumbling through the glove compartment to get her information out. And she pulls out her information, and as she looks at it, there's a big note written on the top of it, a sticky note put on her like insurance info. And the sticky note simply says, in case of an accident, remember, honey, I love you, not the car. Isn't that so sweet? But he was also expecting her to rear-end somebody, apparently. So I don't know, it goes both ways. So that's patient and kind, apparently. He's living in both of them right there. But that's the concept, the first two concepts Paul gives us about this selfless kind of love. It's patient. It's kind. Now that almost is enough right there, but wait, Paul's got more. He goes on. He says, it does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, it believes all things, it hopes all things, and it endures all things. So let's just look at these real briefly. It rejoices with the truth. You see, when we're living in a selfless love that cherishes the person that we love, there's no secrets. There's confidences. There's things that, hey, this is between us, and we're not going to share this with other people. But there's not secrets, because there's a difference between secrets and holding the confidence of the person that you love. But a selfless love rejoices in the truth. It's meant lights on, shades open. I love lots of light, natural light. So in the morning, I'm like opening shades and shutters and turning on lights and everything, which probably doesn't do great for the power bill, but like it gets sunlight and light, so it's great. But I just love light. I like to let it in. That's what you live in a selfless love. I'm holding your confidence, but we're not keeping secrets. We're going to see the contrast of this in a few minutes. But a selfless love rejoices in the truth. He says it bears all things. It covers all things. Now, this can be a challenge sometimes for certain personalities, for some of us in this room. Because literally what he talks about when bearing all things is like, all right, listen, in this selfless kind of love, we're having trouble right now. We're having issues right now. We are struggling right now. But I am not going to go suddenly start broadcasting that to everybody else. I'm not going to go to my little, confidence group. Hey, I just want to share with you all, blah. and break the confidence of the ones that we love. It doesn't mean we don't have people that we can have confidence in, but we don't go broadcasting. This concept of bear is that it's able to let small things that are not essential, just kind of let it go, like, all right, I don't need to respond to that. If it's a big enough issue, but this is concept is like, man, you put the toilet roll on backwards again? You loaded the dishwasher wrong again? This is what number accident you've been in now? But it's to cover. We're going to come back to this concept of covering again a little bit later too, and in a really beautiful way. But it's also, we don't let it go off in jokes about the one that we love, sarcasm about the one that we love. But it bears all things. It believes all things, we're told. I don't know how you're like when it comes to new people and meeting new people and stuff like this, but here's where I start. When I meet somebody, I start at 100% with somebody. I have no reason to not trust you. I have no reason to not believe in you, unless or until you show me that I can't. But for my personality, here becomes the challenge. I believe in people. It's like this chorus, I believe you. Wow, you just tore me up. But I believe in you. And you just did it again. I have this belief in me that, quite honestly, I never want to lose, but it's a belief that is also, it's a belief in other people that's also at times been taken advantage of, that's been abused, that's been misused. And some of you are the same way in here. And if we're not careful when that happens, we can begin to, now I'm going to become untrusting. I'm not going to believe the best in people. Everybody is out to get me. A selfless love, Paul tells us, is a love that believes like, okay, man, this might not even be okay what you just did, but I believe in God's ability to redeem people and to change people. I'm going to believe the best in this situation. I'm going to hold on to a confidence that God can work. It's a belief that believes in people, again, until you're proven wrong. And sometimes you're proven to a point where it's like, okay, now I can't. Now I can't trust you. And that point is out there. That point does come in relationships. But the love that Paul's talking about is a love that doesn't give up too quick. We'll see that in a moment also. So it's a love that believes all things. This love is not gullible, but it uses wisdom and it uses discernment, but it doesn't give up too fast. Paul says love hopes all things. I tend to be a bit of an optimist, right? Who are all the optimists in the room? Okay, now we know who the pessimists are also. I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand, but selfless love is an optimistic love. It's a love that's like, man, the best is in front of us. Whoa, speed bump. But man, I know we're going to get through this. It's not a pessimism that goes, oh man, we're probably going to, I don't know what's going to happen to us now in the future. Man, I just loaded the dishwasher wrong. Yeah, but I don't know what that means for our relationship at this point. That is not a love that hopes all things, but it's an optimistic love. In bigger issues, again, it's the optimism that, okay, God can move, God can change you, God can change me. It's a love that hopes all things. And in this section, the final one he gives us, it's a love that endures. This can be a challenging one. Because we live in a culture today that says, man, if you don't like it, leave it. If it's tough, jet. Get out. Go find something else. Go do something else. Endurance can become a real challenge today because Paul says a selfless love is a love that endures. Because I'm not telling you anything new when I say relationships have challenges, right? And those challenges can be hard. And those challenges can look like a mountain that there's no way you can get to the other side of. Paul says a selfless love is a love that's going to endure. It's not a love that's going to jump ship at the first sign of trouble. It's not a love that's going to say, man, we gave it a whirl, I don't know. This is too hard, it's too challenging. Again, this is not a love that excuses abuse or excuses things that can happen. But it's a love that doesn't quit too quickly. Now, one thing you begin to notice in all of these is all of these verbs, they're in what we call the present tense. They're a continuous action. It's a way we live, not just a moment in time. It's an attitude that we live with, Paul is saying. And what he's trying to get across to us is this: to love completely is not easy. We go through this list and we go, man, I can do a couple of those, but man, Scott, hope, I think I've lost it. If you knew my situation, believes, endures, we can look at these 7 we just look at and go, I don't know, because to love that way is not easy. To love completely is not easy, but I'll tell you this, an easy love is not a complete love. To love completely is not easy, but an easy love is not complete. Because a true, deep, abiding love is one that has gone through some seasons together. And you've had to live through some of this selflessly to get to the other side of it. And those of us in this room who have, you can stand and tell the others, like, man, on the other side of it, there was even a greater, a deeper, a more complete because of what God did in us. So these are the what love is. Now he gives us 8 love isn'ts. I don't think that's a word, but I just made it up. He gives us 8 love isn'ts. And each one of these is preceded by the love does not. Love is not. So it's showing us the opposing view of a selfless love. The first one we see, we'll just read again. It's patient, it's kind, it does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing. It does not envy. Man, guys, this can be a tough one for us sometimes in a marriage, right? Man, my wife is more successful than I am. That's hard for a guy. My wife makes more money than I do. Envy is the root of a lot of other things that can spring out of it. And a selfless love is one that does not envy. It's not jealous. When you're jealous of the person that you love, when you're jealous in your marriage, when you're jealous in a relationship, you're completely missing the point of love. Love rejoices. Oh my gosh, you got the promotion? You rock. You're amazing. It celebrates. This is the opposite. Paul says love does not envy. It does not boast, and it's not arrogant. You see, envy, if we let it go, then becomes boasting. Well, I'm envious of what you have, so you know what? I'm just going to talk about me. I'm going to boast about my accomplishments. I'm not interested in you. I mean, how many of us know somebody like that? You have a conversation with them, and they never ask anything about you. Here, let me tell you more about me. I had a conversation this week where I intentionally asked somebody multiple questions about them and what they were doing. And as I'm talking to them, I'm just wondering, like, I wonder if they'll ask anything back. Never did. It was like an hour-and-a-half conversation. Not one question back. It's like, oh, interesting. Okay. Envy can become boasting, where now I'm so envious and jealous, now I just want to prop myself up to look better. And then it naturally leads to arrogance. Well, you know what? I'm so much better than you are anyway. It's sort of this natural sequence in the psychology of lovelessness as you start to slide down from this selfless concept of love to a very selfish concept of love. And so Paul says, hey, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not arrogant, it is not rude. I don't know why I did this, but the result was fascinating. I Googled rude husbands. Just Google stuff sometimes. It's really fun what you find out. I Googled rude husbands. Guys, not to pick on you, but it was just like, okay, I'm a guy. Let's Google rude. And I was not about to Google rude wives and tell you what that came up with. But I'm smarter than that. Rude husbands. In 0.4 seconds, 26 million results came up. So apparently there's a lot of people out there who have a lot to share about their rude husbands or how to deal with rude husbands, whatever it is. But this concept of rude is to behave in an ugly and indecent way. It's literally the idea of like, hey, I have a quality or a trait that I know bugs my spouse, bugs the person that I love, and I just don't care. I'm going to do it anyway. I think it's funny. Other people laugh, but it bothers me. Well, I don't care. It's rude. Paul says that's not a selfless love. Selfless love is not rude. It doesn't insist on its own way. This is a love that means to pursue self. The word is interesting because it portrays the intensity almost like a stalker. So focused on something that everything else is just pushed out of the way. And what it becomes so focused on is itself. A selfish love is one that's only concerned about itself and not other people. Here's a great question to ask yourself sometime. What do people on the other side of me feel? What do the people that I love on the other side of me feel? If you're brave enough, ask them sometime. Hey, sit down, husband. Sit down, wife. Depending upon the temperature of your relationship, maybe do this with a counselor. I don't know. But hey, what's it like to be on the other side of me? I asked this question once, and I honestly don't know what I was thinking. I actually do know what I was thinking. I was thinking I was going to get all propped up in everything. This was many, many years ago. And I kind of asked this question in essence, and the answer that I got floored me because it was not the answer I was expecting. The answer was right on, but it was not the answer I was expecting. It was not the answer I was after when I asked the question. But a love that insists on its own way, the person on the other side of you does not feel loved. They don't feel safe. They don't feel wanted. Paul says love is not irritable. It's not abrasive. So years ago, my parents are actually here today. I pointed down here, and I actually don't know where they are. So they're over there. There they are. I don't know why I pointed here, because I love you guys too. Mary's like a mom to me. No. I was on a trip to New York with them years ago, and I don't know what I was thinking, but I bought a pair of Chuck Taylors, you know, these little tennis shoes. I'm like, oh, yeah. I'm like, I want to wear them today because they look great. And then I went walking around New York City, a brand new pair of Chuck Taylors. It was probably 10 minutes before I had sores on the sides of my feet and open wounds developing. It was one of the worst days of my life in one of the greatest cities. And I got irritable, and I got a little like, and people with me were like, okay, you can just go do your own thing. I'm like, I'd like to, but I can't because my feet hurt. It's kind of this idea of irritable. It's an open wound that's easily hurt. This is not what a selfless love acts like. We're going to have hurts in relationships. If you haven't yet, if you're still in that new love phase, just in time, wait. They're coming. Wait for it. But a selfless love doesn't respond irritably. A selfish love responds irritably. And then he says it's not resentful. Sometimes when you get into the words in the Bible, it's humbling and it blows you away. It is not resentful. The context of this word is literally like a bookkeeper keeping an account of all the wrongs. You want to know what you've done to me? Let me look up. May 19th, 2011. Here's what you did. Oh, look, we're on the 7-year anniversary of when you did this, too. Selfless love is not resentful. It doesn't hold on to wrongs. It doesn't keep a ledger. It doesn't keep an account of the wrongs suffered. And Paul ends this one with, he said, it also doesn't rejoice at wrongdoing. It doesn't rejoice in injustice. It doesn't rejoice in evil. It doesn't rejoice in abuse. Selfless love does not live in secrecy, in violence, in abuse. So Paul gives us these two opposites of what love is and what love isn't. And if we want to cherish, we have to love selflessly, not selfishly. In fact, the Message says it this way. Love never gives up. Love cares more for others than for self. Love doesn't want what it doesn't have. Love doesn't strut, doesn't have a swelled head, doesn't force itself on others, isn't always me first, doesn't fly off the handle, doesn't keep score of the sins of others, doesn't revel when others grovel, takes pleasure in the flowering of truth, puts up with anything, trusts God always, always looks for the best, never looks back, but keeps going to the end. This is the selfless love Paul talks about. The second way we see this love is the selfless protection of others. Proverbs 10 says, "The mouth of the righteous is a fountain of life, but the mouth of the wicked conceals violence. Hatred stirs up strife, but love covers all offenses." Here's what's wild about this verse. The word for conceals and the word for covers are the same exact word. Two different ways that they're used, two different implications, the same word. You see, a selfish love conceals. A selfish love is a love that says, if you tell anybody about this. A selfish love is the kind of love that keeps an abused victim quiet and in an abusive environment. If you do, here's what will happen. It covers it, it conceals it. But we're told, love covers all offenses. The difference is a selfless love doesn't conceal it, hide it. It covers it. Hey, we're going to work on this together. We're not going to give up right away. Let's go to a counselor. Let's do this. Let's do that. But I'm not just jumping ship. I'm not going to go blab this. I was told the story this week of, I don't know when this happened, but a blogger having some issues, and she decided it was a good idea to go on her blog and expose all of these intimate details about her relationship with her husband. She thought it was kind of funny. Humiliated the guy. Shockingly, they ended up divorced as a result of it. Love covers. It covers over because it believes, it hopes. There's a difference between living in secrecy and holding a confidence. That's the difference between these two. So love covers all offenses. And the final way we love selflessly is this: selfless sacrifice for others. John 15 says this: "Greater love has no one than this, than he laid down his life for his friends." You see, this is how we can live and love selflessly, because Christ has done it for us. He's modeled it for us. He's shown us the way to do it. Selfless love is all about giving. It's actually not about receiving. It's about giving. And the beauty is this: when two people are loving and living selflessly, you're getting love back. But that's not the motive for loving. The motive is selflessness, to love sacrificially. Greater love has no one than to lay down your life. We're told in 1 John 3:16, "By this we know that he laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for the brothers." You see, this is how we know we can love this way, because Jesus, out of his selfless love for us, because we are imperfect, because we have sin that has separated us from God, and in that separation, there's a price that had to be paid. And in the demonstration of selfless love, Christ came on our behalf and took on the penalty of our sin to remove that separation, to show us you can love this way, but it is only through Christ's love in us. It is only through relationship with him that we can love somebody else this way. And he's made the way for us through his death and through his life. Paul says in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, "For our sake, he, Christ, God, made him, Christ, to be sin who knew no sin, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God," so that we can love selflessly. And as we love selflessly, we can cherish those who are the closest to us: our husbands, our wives, our families, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your fiance. But we can't love selflessly apart from the love of God in us. Some of you today are sitting here going, "Man, I want to love that way, but I don't even know that kind of love." And today you can know it. Today you can make the choice for it by saying, okay, if the way is through Christ and my sins have separated me from him, then I want him today. And it's a choice you make. to be reunited with the God who loved you so much that he gave his son for you, so that you can love as he has loved us. Let's pray. Lord, we will admit that we are imperfect when it comes to loving in this way. We try our best, we do our best, but we are not perfect at it, and we fail, and yet your love never fails us. And so, Lord, what we ask today is whatever relationship we're in, if it's a marital relationship, if it's a dating relationship, whether it's within family, Lord, that through your love for us, we could love in this way, a selfless kind of love that is giving to others, Lord, not seeking its own. And Father, I pray for those here today who they're not yet walking in that relationship with you, that kind of love for you, Lord, of recognizing the sacrifice that you made for them. And my prayer is that today they would make that choice for you. And if that's you, all you have to do right now as I pray is just simply say, I believe, and Lord, I'm asking you into my heart. And Lord, for that person or those people right now, as they confess that to you, as they say that to you, Lord, I ask that you would just consume who they are in your love, forgiving and freeing them of their sins and showing them how to love in the way that you do, Lord, selflessly in every context. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.